Right, morning. Welcome all. So back to Trevor's double. What is it? Quintet. So yeah, eight line. What did we decide? It was called yesterday, Trevor, an octave or something. I'm not sure. It's certainly not 4 lines anyway. So
quatrain's still right because it's 4 line stanzas and it's 2 stanzas. So Trevor was right in the first place.
Okay, there you go. So that's amazing.
So
sometimes he is right.
yeah, so each was a quatrain, and then I said no, just simplify it. It's a poem, for goodness sake.
Okay, so the early morning ramblings of Trevor Nell, you've got to describe it some way that makes sense to you. So today we're on line 2, and those of you who noticed the deliberate error in the subject of the email that I sent out last night, please ignore it. But so this morning is soar like an eagle, something that is actually quite close to my heart. My very first business was actually called Soar Associates, and my logo was a Battalier eagle. So that one resonates with me quite a bit. And Battaliers, of course, are very interesting eagles because they don't have very long tails, so they wobble around in the air all the time. So the question is whether you're soaring nice and gently on the high winds, or whether you're wobbling around trying to keep your altitude. I'm not too sure which one is you. But anyway, so let's start with Donovan this morning. So Donovan, soar like an eagle. How does that work in construction?
Yeah, you just caught me.
You muted, Donovan. So I think we seem to have found you and lost you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we had plans for the children to take them to an expo, exposing them to the possibility of doing some flight training. But due to COVID, when we found the company that offered the training, they said they canceled their open days, etc. So that put a bit of a damper on our plans. So I would have loved to expose our daughters to the possibility of flying one day, because it gives you a perspective, or a different or much better perspective on life when you look at things from above. You see more. You get a fuller picture, and it helps you with direction in life. I can't unfortunately link it to construction. Safe to say, when you look at the typical construction site for your high-rise kind of structures, you always get the tower cranes, which, if you can just visualize the operator, he's got vision like no one else, but he still needs someone on the ground to direct him. He still needs a rigger or someone to give him step-by-step directions as to how to lift things, how to place it, etc., because his vision, although better, is limited. So the eagle has got good vision, but it is limited somehow. Yeah, but it enables the eagle to surprise the prey and to feel a bit superior. But as I said, it's still limited somehow. Thank you.
Thanks, Donovan. Yeah, an interesting thought there. You can be up there, but you still perhaps need help lower down. So yeah, maybe the eagle doesn't need help lower down. I'm not sure, but certainly us as humans have additional limitations that perhaps eagles don't. But some interesting thoughts there. So let's get across to Cecile next.
Hi. Okay, I'm going to listen today as well a lot. But what I want to say about soar like an eagle, if I had a superpower, that is definitely what I would want to have, to be able to fly, not like a fancy fly, but almost like an eagle flies. Because the funny thing is, the only recurring dream that I ever have is that I'm flying. I kind of, almost the way that I'm just thinking which birds actually take off that like that, not eagles really. Almost like you're running on the ground and you start flapping and then you start soaring. So that's the one recurring dream that I always have. So it must mean something. One day I'm going to ask someone what it means. But yeah, so, oh, no man, an ostrich doesn't fly like that. Who's ever on the ostrich? They are like, what are those? Almost like those pink ones. Those ones, don't they fly like
Flamingos.
Flamingos. Don't they kind of almost run on the water and then they take off like that? That's how I fly. And then you kind of just, when you are up there, you just flap your wings once or twice and you can glide along. So yeah, I will listen to the rest of you about that. Hopefully, I'm in the middle of selling a house, wrapping up a business, doing too many things. But so yeah, but my mind is open to listen, not to think.
Good. It certainly sounds like you're flying around there doing all sorts of different things, Cecile. So yeah, good luck with all of that. And yeah, it'll be interesting. So Jasper, how do you soar?
That's a bad question to respond to, so I'll just ignore the question and just give you my input on the idea of soaring like an eagle. And throughout my life, probably for the last 40 years, the eagle has been a very strong symbol, because we called our group in New Life Rising Eagles. And it was based on that verse in the Bible that says, run and not be weary, walk and not fail, and then rise like an eagle. So over the years, I've done a lot of reading up and studying about the behavior of eagles, and there are some tremendous life lessons around eagles. So I know most of you already know it, but just coming back to the theme of soaring like an eagle. The process is not that simple for that little baby eaglet. It grows up and initially only knows comfort, and that initial nest is quite fluffy, but the outer construct of the nest is very scratchy, thorny twigs, but just filled with feathers and stuff. And then as the chick grows up, the mother pulls out the fluff and the easy stuff, and now that nest becomes very hard and uncomfortable. So the chick walks around on the ledge for a while, but still in his comfort and observing his parents doing their thing there up in the air. And then the day comes for the lesson for that chick to say, listen, you're actually made to soar. But he's very reluctant to take that first step. So he basically gets pushed off the ledge. And then he goes free falling in total panic. And then the interplay between the mother and the father is also, the father catches the eaglet and bring it back up to the mother and take it up in the air and throw it again, until that eaglet discovers these things on his side are actually functional and can work for him. But it just takes me through the process we all go through. We are in comfort, and I think a whole lot of people were in comfort before COVID. When I say comfort, I even have a saying, I'm uncomfortably comfortable. But so people get their level of discomfort where they say, I can work with this discomfort. It's uncomfortably comfortable, which means I'm passive. I don't want to change anything, and I'll try and rather protect the status quo the best I can. And then comes life, and it just plucks the whole thing from underneath you. You no longer have a nest. You're in free falling. And I think a lot of businesses find themselves today in that discomfort of free falling with no clue of when I'm going to hit the ground, and I can just see this ground is approaching very fast. But if you're in a structured environment and part of a program, I think the steps you go through is called moving from comfort to fear to learning to success. And we are basically all constantly busy with that process. And unfortunately, if you're in success and you don't keep growing, you can get back in comfort, and then you'll have to repeat the cycle. Instead of elaborating too much, I just wanted to maybe put that thought there. Before soaring comes free falling in total panic. But fortunately for you, if you are part of a structure, there could be a mama eagle that checks you out, and a papa eagle, and between the two of them, they won't let you hit the ground. But the process, although you're experiencing total panic, the process is designed to teach you that you are functional and you are able to fly.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Yeah, some interesting points on that one there. The challenge of the life of an eagle is an interesting one. So there's also the Cain and Abel elements of it as well, which we can chat about at another time perhaps. But Edward, let's get across to you and hear your thoughts.
Yeah, but before we get on to Trevor's poem, I wanted to reflect back on something Jasper said yesterday. I found it really profound, and he said that at school we teach our children to be employees, not employers. And I thought, well, you know, employees were very relevant in the time of the mines and the factories and the mills, but they aren't perhaps so important now. And then Trevor said something, I think it was Trevor, said something about NASA. And that reminded me that NASA have a creativity test. And I think 98% of 5-year-olds can pass it. Only 12% of 15-year-olds can pass it, and only 2% of adults. And those stats are from, I think, from the late 60s, but I don't think school education's changed since then. And I think, you know, now we're in a post-industrial world and a post-COVID, well, we will be in a post-COVID world sometimes. I think we need creativity, and we need to change our education system. And that's why I think it's really appropriate that here we're talking about poetry. Because in business, we do need spreadsheets, we do need project management, we do need KPIs, but we also need creativity and a sense of magic. So, yeah. So on to Trevor's second line, soar, soar, soar like an eagle. And I thought I'd break down my comments into 3 sections following his idea of using 3. So it's construction, content, and consciousness. And the construction I found very interesting because he's carried on the same thing of using 3 to give power to the word. And I think 3 is interesting because it's odd and it suggests there's more to come. Had it been 2, a pair, or maybe 4, 2 pairs, it suggests completeness, as though there's no more to come. And I think also the use of the 2 dots is really useful because that again reinforces there's more to come. And it shouldn't be 3 dots. 3 dots is an ellipsis, which means words have been omitted. And I don't think there's anything been omitted. And then yesterday I talked about how the power of the 3 words separated it from what was to come next, which was the noise. Whereas these 3 words add to the power of what's to come because it says like an eagle. So I just found that really clever. And I don't know whether Trevor worked at it intentionally, but I know a lot of thought would have gone into it subconsciously. These really sort of successful things just don't happen by accident. And in the content, you know, soar builds on rise. rise is an effort, rise is a small thing, rise is a gradual thing perhaps, whereas soar is a big thing. It's escape. You've risen above the noise, you've almost escaped gravity to soar. So you stop being pulled back into that mire of noise and everyday stuff. And it's about effortless process, isn't it? If you mention soar, you think of a bird just up there, just doing it without any effort. And I think eagle's a good choice. I mean, he could have chosen lots of birds, like albatrosses soar, but albatrosses have a negative connotation. It could have been a frigate bird, a kite, a buzzard, a condor. But those suggest sort of almost laziness, whereas eagles suggest power. And throughout history, eagles have been a symbol of both power and wisdom. And also, I think it kind of links very nicely in what he's going to say later, because we always think of, there's that expression, eagle-eyed. So when he comes with, he's setting us up for that focus and that dot. And then I came to consciousness, eagle instantly gives you that image. And we've escaped the noise, we've escaped the mundane stuff, as I said before. We're peaceful. I think if you think about an eagle soaring, you think of peace. And then we're really high above, looking down at stuff. And we can see not only the circumstances for us or our business, but we can see the whole landscape. And we've escaped from those walls and those barriers that are blocking our vision. We've risen above those walls so we can see past them, and if we're living in a bowl, that's all we can see, isn't it? It's just walls around us, problems, barriers. If we're up there, we're looking down at possibilities. We're looking down at different stuff beyond where we are. So, the first line was brilliant. And the second line really just adds another level, some more power. And that view that we're looking down with peace and calm. We're away from the noise. We've got time to look at all those possibilities, to scan the landscape, look out for what's there. The eagle is obviously looking for food. We're looking for opportunities. So I just loved that that line. I just thought it was brilliant.
Right, thanks, Ed. Yeah, and in the process, I think you're educating us, or certainly some of us that maybe don't understand the finer nuances of writing and the English language, and I think that's also great. So thanks so much for that. Yeah, I think it's for me it is very interesting. And a couple of elements that you mentioned there, sort of some other imagery came to my mind. Almost, you spoke about the bowl and the walls around you, and the rise is almost like bubbles. You can almost see bubbles rising up through the fluid or through the liquid until eventually they break the surface, and then you can actually lift that out. So as you're going through that, you're still contained and you're still wrapped up in whatever is inside that particular environment until you manage to actually break through the surface tension. And in those situations, you have a surface tension that again is trying to actually put a cap on you actually breaking free from that environment and actually lifting off out into the atmosphere above the situation. And yeah, so that was an image that came to mind as you were sort of describing the linkage between the two lines, was that sort of bubbles rising through either through a bowl, as you say, some form of gas or air moving through the liquid, or even a boiling kettle. It takes time for the water to heat to a point where the bubbles can actually break free and become steam, getting free of that surface tension that's actually containing them in the environment that they've started off in. And I think that's often what happens to us. You spoke about the education system, and it's one that's been one of my little passions for a long time. I really think our standard education systems around the world are designed to constrain, designed to actually keep us in a mold, make us good little soldiers, good little workers, rather than providing us with the necessary tools to become creative thinkers, as you say. And to do that, again, you need to get above, above the environment. So there, for me, the soaring actually comes into it. It's getting out there and getting the ability to see laterally and think laterally and think outside of those constraints that you were actually in before you managed to break through that surface tension that was holding you back. So yeah, some lovely images came to mind for me in that little bit as well. So thanks for that. So Trevor, over to you to tell us whether we've interpreted you correctly or not.
I've got no idea why I love Ed so much. There's the power of blowing smoke and how it makes you feel so good. So you know what stands out for me here? I mean, I thought of none of that Ed is doing. And again, for me, it's, we talk of in the difference maker, part of the wisdoms program, the power of being a role model, that you have no idea of what interpretation people are making of yourself. So here it was, these sort of words just came out sort of 2:30 in the morning. I quickly wrote them down on a piece of paper. And then before that session, I juggled them a little bit. And then when I hear Ed's interpretation of this, it just gives me confirmation that I'm an absolute genius, and Jesper and all of those guys can go to wherever they want to go camping. No, it's quite fascinating how people pick up things about yourself that you would not have recognized or what you've actually done. So I think there's a powerful lesson in that somewhere, that perhaps in everyone's up here is something that other people will recognize as being genius. And I think that everyone perhaps has that. Ed, so that's what you're bringing out for me. And there were two things that just already, and I'm amazed that we're breaking this down line by line, and it's taken up a whole session. I would never have thought that would be the case. But the word powerful, the power of simplicity. And this little poem written here is just a simple poem, but what Ed brings out of it is something huge. So I'm just trying to feed that through my mind, but it brings me back to, let's keep things simple, simple, simple. And then Ivan went on to the power of imagery. Everything I've done through my entire life, and Ed, I talk of us being me being in my 7th decade. I think that's powerful, and that through my entire life, I've thought in pictures. And I think everyone's commentary has been about their interpretation of the pictures or the imagery from those words, right from the beginning of Ivan talking about the Batelea eagle and how impressive that is. For me, if I had to see an eagle, it's the fish eagle or the American bald eagle. The power of a fish eagle that's a mental image that I have of such a graceful and powerful bird and what it does. Just quite amazing. And I'm just loving how Ed is adding just intellectual capacity to something that was done so simply, with not too much thought. Ed, I hesitate to say that. So, but don't tell anyone else. I just love it. If you will send me the whole publication, I think it's the Oxford breakdown of the great. Maybe this can win a, what do you call those things? Nobel Poet Laureate Award for intellectual something. Now I'm dreaming, eh?
Trevor, as Ivan said, those words have been forming in the boiling water for a long time. You might have written them overnight very quickly, and he did say you rearranged them afterwards, but they have been growing, distilling, whatever, for a long time over with your experience, and you don't realize you've just distilled down 7 decades into 8 lines.
That is a lovely word, distill, because that's, I think, is what calms you, what relaxes you. And when you've got this helicopter view, what you're actually doing is distilling what's going on with all this crisis and chaos, and how do we bring our experience to actually taking us through to the next level. I like that word, distill. I'm going to think about that a bit more.
Great, thanks, everyone. Yeah, it is interesting. You know, when I first started working with Trevor some 20 years ago, you know, I was a very detailed person. I still am a very detailed person, very analytical person, and you know, the nature of what I do in writing programs is you have to be. You know, you've got to be able to think of the smallest elements of a process and distill them, break them down into this you know, the really simple parts, and then build that back out to a bigger picture. And I used to struggle to see the pictures. You know, you spoke about imagery now. I used to really struggle to visualize, because I was always working at that kind of detailed level of the process. And I think, you know, over these years, I've learned to actually get above, to see the bigger picture, to see, you know, to see the vision, to actually get those images working. So it's been an interesting growth period for me. And I don't know, sorry, I've got a huge racket in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's been a very interesting growth period for me in terms of learning to actually look at situations from both ends, from be able to look at it from the big picture view, and then be able to take it right back down to the simple steps, the simple processes that actually build it back up again to a working model. Because you know, when you're up there and you've got the vision, it's exactly that. It's a vision, it's an image. It's not yet a working model. And to turn it into something really practical and workable, I think takes breaking it back down again. And I think, Donovan, that's where we come back to your construction. You know, you think of an architect, he creates a vision, big picture of a building or a structure, and to make it happen, you've got to take it back down to each brick that you're going to lay, and those sorts of elements. So, you know, I love the analogy of the crane operator also needing the help on the ground, and I think that's you know, that ties the picture back in together, how you can actually implement. Right, so I think, folks, that's probably us for the morning. So tomorrow, high beyond the crowds. So, you know, hopefully we can start to look at that in more detail as well. So thanks for all your inputs this morning. Have a great day further, and we'll see you in the morning. Cheers now.